They won in court. That sentence is short, clean, complete. It fits perfectly inside a legal summary. What it doesn't include is what I lost. If this story is touching you, comment below where you're watching from and what time it is there. Because when the judge ruled in their favor, no one said the other part out loud. No one said, I lost the child I raised. I didn't give birth to them. That detail mattered more than I understood at the time. But I was there for everything else. The nights when sleep wouldn't come. The mornings when shoes were always missing. The years when love wasn't theoretical. It was daily labor. I didn't step into the role expecting permanence. It started as help, temporary, necessary, a family situation that required stability. I provided it without question. At first, everyone agreed it was best for the child, best for continuity. I was the constant. School forms had my signature. Doctors called my phone. I knew their habits, their fears, the way their voice changed when they were tired. I didn't think of myself as a replacement. I thought of myself as a presence. That distinction mattered to me. It didn't matter to the court. Years passed. Not quickly, slowly, the way childhood always does when you're inside it. Then suddenly, all at once, when you look back. The legal problem didn't begin with conflict. It began with rights, with biology, with paperwork that existed long before I did. Someone else wanted involvement again. Legally, they were entitled to it. No one disputed that, not even me. I believed there was room for nuance, for recognition of reality, for acknowledgement of time. The first letter arrived politely, a notice, an intention. No accusations, no hostility. Just a reminder that legal structures were still in place. I wasn't afraid. I had raised a child. Surely that counted for something. The process that followed was orderly. Evaluations, hearings, professional voices discussing my life in measured tones. They spoke about attachment, continuity, impact. I thought we were speaking the same language. But they weren't measuring love. They were measuring entitlement. In court, everything was calm. No raised voices, no tears. I cried later, alone. They presented their case, rights, precedent. The law was clear. It always is. My lawyer spoke about stability, about the child's lived reality, about disruption. The judge listened, took notes, nodded. Then the ruling came. Clear, structured. They won. The word won echoed in my head, as if something had been contested. As if this were a game. I wasn't accused of harm. That's important. No one said I was unfit. No one said I had failed. They simply said the law prioritized something else. Biology, legal standing, original rights. When the decision was read, I didn't react. I couldn't, because I was trying to understand how something so devastating could sound so reasonable. The transition plan followed immediately. Schedules, timelines, recommendations, everything designed to soften impact. Impact cannot be softened when it's existential. The child didn't understand. How could they? Adult struggles to understand legality. Children understand presence and absence. I was told not to make it harder, not to confuse them, not to interfere. I followed every instruction because resistance would only be used against me. The first goodbye wasn't dramatic. It was logistical. A bag packed. A reminder about allergies. A hug that lasted too long. After that, my house changed. Silence isn't empty when you're used to noise. It's aggressive. I kept their room intact. For a while, then I couldn't, because preserving it felt like pretending, and changing it felt like betrayal. People told me to stay involved, to remain supportive, to be grateful for visitation. They didn't understand. Visitation is not parenting, it's permission. Each visit felt like a performance. I was careful with words, careful with affection, afraid that love could be framed as manipulation. The child began to change, not because of lack of love, because adaptation is survival, They started calling me less. Not intentionally. Gradually, life moved around them, and I was no longer at the center. The court considered this progress, adjustment, healthy transition. I considered it loss. I appealed, briefly. My lawyer was honest. This was always unlikely. The law had already spoken. The appeal was denied, efficiently, correctly. That was the moment I understood something fundamental. The court wasn't deciding what was best. It was deciding what was allowed. I wasn't erased legally. I was erased relationally, which the law doesn't measure. People asked how I was holding up. I told them I was fine. Because explaining this kind of loss is exhausting. There is no vocabulary for losing a child who is still alive, especially when the loss is sanctioned. At night, I replayed moments. Ordinary ones. Homework at the table, conversations in the car, things no court transcript will ever record. I wondered if loving without biological rights was always temporary. If I had misunderstood the nature of my role from the beginning. The child grew. Milestones passed. I learned about them later. Sometimes from others. Sometimes not at all. I became a chapter. Not a constant. The system worked. That's what everyone said. And they were right. The law protected original rights. It honored precedent. It followed structure. And I lost the child I raised. I don't hate the people who won. They didn't cheat. They didn't manipulate. They used the system available to them. That's what makes it unbearable. Because there is no villain. Only a framework that recognizes blood before bond, documentation before devotion. Sometimes I imagine what would have happened if the law recognized time, if years of care carried weight, if love counted as evidence. But imagining doesn't change rulings. I still think of the child every day. Not in a dramatic way. In quiet ways, reflexively. I don't know who I am without that rule, because it defined me more than I realized. The court moved on, the case closed, files archived. I didn't recover. I adapted. Those are not the same. They won in court. And I lost the child I raised.